Hi, my name is Doug Carothers, and I'm the principal investigator for the Soaring Eagle Academy. And with me is Clarisse Halpern, who conducted the study, and Hasan, who is another member of our faculty that was on our planning committee. And our study was about the starting of the Soaring Eagle Academy, and the timing is amazing. And it's perfect that you scheduled us at 10 o'clock in the morning, our time, because at 11 o'clock in the morning, we are in the student union of our campus. At 11 o'clock, we are notifying the students in our first class that they have been accepted to the university and will be beginning classes in the fall. So it's a big day here for the Soaring Eagle Academy, and we wanted to tell you how we started it. Brief outline, we're going to do an introduction, a lit review. If you can read quicker than me, you already know these things, but we'll go over the rationale for the study, the purpose, the research questions, the method, the findings, discussion, and then the conclusions and recommendations. And we will do that all in 20 minutes. As an introduction, we just want to say higher education in the U.S. traditionally has been the gateway to better opportunities. And it's where the values of society have been founded and fostered. And it's been important that everybody be included, even in recent years when American society has been radically different from what it was when I grew up. Universities have been extremely tolerant and open to all types of diversity. And one of the benefits is that reduces people developing feelings of increased autonomy and importance, agency, the feeling of belonging. And we wanted here, one of the new things is in the United States, students with disabilities since the mid-1970s, and forgive me if I'm out of line with the science, but they've been going to public schools, but when they finish high school, it's been difficult for some students with disabilities to continue to post-secondary education with their friends. And so those that have tended to feel marginalized on campus. And so now what we're doing is starting things where we have a larger and more open and inclusive campus. This basically got started in the year 2008 for higher education. The U.S. Congress passed the Higher Education Opportunity Act. And what that did was it made it possible for students with what we call intellectual disabilities, and I'll come back to that term in just a minute, for them to receive federal financial aid in the form of Pell Grants that do not need to be repaid and work-study programs, because tuition is not free in the United States. I know in some countries it is, here it is not. Since this law passed in 2008, over 303 higher education institutions across the country have opened programs for students with intellectual disability. And they're called comprehensive transition programs. What they require is that students be enrolled full-time or at least more than half-time, that they be fully included with students without disabilities, and that they focus on preparing students for careers in society so that they integrate not only during the college years, but also moving on to the time after college. Next slide, please. Now, the term we've used, and I understand that this is not a popular term, in the US, the history of this particular term was, we had periods where terms like feeble-minded were used, and then we went from there to idiots, imbeciles, and morons. After that, historically, a term of mental retardation was used. And in 2004, I believe it was, federal law changed the term because they found that the terminology was stigmatizing. So the term was changed from mental retardation to intellectual disability. And it's important to have a term because that allows discussion, common language for discussion. It allows the government to fund programs for specific populations. So that's where we have the term, and that's the term written in US law. It's the term, and it's the term that school districts use, and it's the term we use in our study because our students have to have that label in order to be able to qualify to participate in this study. If we used any other term, they would not be allowed to participate. So what we've got going on is starting this fall, we're going to be accepting 9 students onto a campus of about 15,000 that have intellectual disabilities. We're going to teach them job skills. They're going to go through a series of internships in the community, and they're going to come out and be fully employed. And we hope that they are going to set the model for students, for the community, to change perceptions of the community of people with disabilities and break those cultural barriers. And down there is the bottom side, just the very idea, this group of students that we're informing today, we're surprising them today, because for most of them, their entire life, there has been no opportunity to go to college for this population in the United States. Again, what this term is, how this term is defined in the US is and it's defined a few different ways. One is by significant limitations in intellectual functioning as measured by IQs, an IQ test score of 70 to 75 or below, deficits in 2 or more areas of adaptive conceptual skills, and occurring before the age of 18. Operationally, we think of it more though, in fact, of the level of supports that people need to help them fit in with the context of the society that is appropriate for their age and their experiences. So we've gotten away from a deficit-based model where we measure what is wrong with the person, and now we look at people and measure the types of supports that they need. Whether it's intermittent, like you or I, when our car doesn't work and we need a ride, whether it's more long-term, or whether it's pervasive. But what we don't talk about so much is what is wrong, but rather, like all of the rest of us, how much help do they need to get the things out of life that we all want. These students, again, have not had the right to attend college in the United States. And in fact, the students that we're inviting today would not meet the traditional entrance requirements for Florida Gulf Coast University. However, this is part almost of and it actually started with the civil rights movement in the US. Brown versus the Board of Education, the US Supreme Court said that separate but unequal was illegal. Separate could not be equal. And that was in the case of Black students attending segregated schools. And what they said was you cannot discriminate against a person based on a personal characteristic that is unalterable and treat them like a suspect class. Okay, well, that was then used in 1972 in a court case, Park, the Pennsylvania Association for Retarded Citizens versus the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and extended that right. The court said that you cannot treat people with intellectual disabilities, or mental retardation was the term at that time, as if they are members of a suspect class and segregate them because of an unalterable personal characteristic. In the same year, 1972, that was extended to students with all disabilities in the United States. In the case of DC versus Mills versus the District of Columbia Board of Education, and in that court case, they actually made the school district actively search for children with disabilities instead of just taking them when they could find them. In 1975, this was made a federal law instead of just litigation. The court cases only have merit in the areas under that court's jurisdiction. In 1975, we passed the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, and that meant that any school in the United States that receives federal funding has to accept every child, regardless of the nature or severity of their disability. They have to provide access to a free, appropriate public education. And yet, despite the fact that this happened in 1975, it was not until 2008 that many of these same students had the opportunity to continue on to college. It's just me. So the rationale for this study is, as we were talking about this, is there's a group of us that have been working on this for about 3 years now, and that's why I keep saying today is a big day. Today is the day we have students. And as we worked through this, what we did was we visited some other sites and we looked around. There's a big college website that's a national clearinghouse for programs like this. But what we could not find was how other people have done it. So Clarisse, being like the most on the ball person you will ever meet, other than Hasan, who's equally on the ball. And that's why they're smart enough, they make me do the talking and list me last. And so anyway, Clarisse let us do a study of how we started this program, interview people, and she'll go through the methodology. I believe she will, one of them will. And how we started this program so that we could share this information and share what we've learned with others that want to do the same things at their universities. So the purpose of the study, see, they make me keep going slide after slide, is to contribute to the body of knowledge and literature on inclusive, comprehensive transition programs for students with intellectual disability by examining the case of the inception of a program in a Southwest Florida university.
This way? It's probably better.
Yes, I can do that.
Okay. So we have 4 research questions guiding the study. So what was the process of planning the program? How did the initiators of the program perceive this planning process? What were their experiences planning the process, and what were the lessons learned in the process of planning this program? We used a qualitative case study to explore this contemporary context. So it's a program, the Soaring Academy Development System, of a comprehensive transition program for students with ID in Southwest Florida University. It's also an intrinsic case study because it's a unique program in this region. So as Doug said, it's a fully inclusive 6-semester academic program that has foundational courses as well as field experiences and internships. So the students will engage in person-centered planning and receive individualized hands-on instruction based on assessment of their interests and aptitudes. The program will provide a full college experience benefits for these students, so they will be able to attend social, recreational, and athletic events, as well as receive natural and peer mentor support to help them locate the activities that will match their interests. The expected result is that completers will enter adulthood as well-rounded individuals, engaging in enjoyable recreation, and also ready for personally meaningful community employment in the industry in this area. So these are the vision and mission of the program. They are defined in conjunction with the university mission. So this was a collaborative inquiry. So it was important that not only we're doing research on the process, on the planning process of this program, but also to have the participants work as co-researchers. So in this way, we valued and shared their expertise, insights, strengths, and contributions to the program, but also to the research process per se. So the 3 of us have this convergent interest in diversity, inclusion, equity, and social justice practices in higher education. The other 4 participants are the professionals who took part in this initial team conceptualizing, planning, and implementing the program. So we feel that our positionality strengthened the study rather than inserting any bias in it, because we had access and were able to get exclusive information on the process of getting approval, designing, and all the backstage functioning of the early stages of the program. These are the participants, their real names because they wanted to. As you can see, they have 17 to 45 years of experience in the area. We had an organizer, campus educator, grant writing, someone responsible for the campus liaison, community partnerships, and program evaluation. We had approval from the University Institutional Review Board, and multiple sources of data were collected to triangulate and increase the study's credibility and trustworthiness. So the semi-structured interviews, for example, helped us get the participants' feelings, attitudes, opinions, the motivators and challenges of planning the program. Our field notes helped get all the verbal cues and reactions and behaviors, as well as our reflections and initial interpretations of the data. Documents and artifacts included reports, strategic plans, public documents, and others that helped us get this behind-the-scenes look at how the program was developed. For ethical considerations, everyone signed an informed consent, ensuring their rights of non-participation, non-response, and to withdraw from the study at any time. The data was transcribed verbatim. The aggregated data was organized, coded, and initial categories were found to get so we can find some patterns and consistency of the findings. And then 3 themes emerged. So the data was also triangulated for different points of view because we analyzed them separately and later compared to check for any inconsistencies. So this was a way to minimize intrinsic interpretation from single methods, single observer, and single theory studies. We also use member checks, and experts were consulted to validate the findings. So mainly we had these three findings: the functional collaborative, top-down support, and life-changing program. So the functional collaborative theme emerged from their perspective of choosing their own team was important for planning the whole process. So they emphasized the empowerment, the synergy, collaboration, among other things that they felt about the initial program, planning of the program. They used a lot the pronoun we. So this was really interesting because they never talked about it in the first person when describing their own roles and participating in the program. And their narratives were permeated with a lot of excitement, joy, and overall positivity when describing their teamwork, collaboration, and the program per se. So here are some of the quotes. As you can see, they talk about the value of being a cohesive team, that they needed independence of putting the team together, so that they have never been in a group that has been so constructive into building something. People who complement one another. So they talked a lot about how their expertise complemented each other with no egos, personal or hidden agendas. The top-down support was the theme that emerged from their perspective, that the top-down support was essential to planning this program. So they highlighted the support from the university president and provost, the board of trustees, and the dean of the College of Education. So they talked about how the top administration embraced their vision and offered all support they needed to develop the program. They had more support from the top administration than from other faculty and staff. They respected the program's vision that the team created and trusted the strength of the team to make it happen, including providing the necessary means, funds, and resources for this. And they also valued the fact that it wouldn't fly, this program, off the ground with only grassroots efforts. So they really needed the top support to plan this and get this happening. The life-changing program was the third and final theme. So they shared the vision of the C as a model program that will transform the lives of students with ID, their families, other students on campus, the campus culture as a whole, because this will be ingrained in the university's fabric, and the Southwest Florida community. So they emphasize the benefits of the program, how they will change the life of the community, and also because these students will be taking jobs, living independently, and contributing to local community and businesses. So for example, they highlighted that they want this to be a model across the nation, well respected by the community. This was a service to the community of doing what's right. It has this moral connotation to it, as well as the teamwork synergy was essential to develop this life-changing program, and that they were doing something great, most of all needed to transform the lives of the students and the community.
Okay, so based on our study, we have done a lot of research what has been done in the past related to intellectual disabilities. So we find out that until 1990, there was no research that talking about that the higher education institution has been accepting the intellectual disability students in the day programs. However, during the Higher Education Opportunity Act in 2008, that comprehensive transition program began to offer that expanded for the intellectual disability students in higher education programs. So also it kind of like this comprehensive transition program in the United States like manifested initiative that to address inclusive for all students in IDs like prejudice, discrimination, insensitivity, and priority towards the for the job market. In Florida states, that the enactment for Florida Postsecondary Comprehensive Transition Program Act 2016, they allow the establish for CTP for the states in higher education institution that way to accepting that the ID students in their higher education program, specifically Inception of the Soaring Academy. The Soaring Academy was outlined in as Bob mentioned 2-3 years ago, the full support from the University Higher Education Administration, President, Provost, Board of Trustees, Deans, and College of Education that materializing the first students cohort beginning in 2021. At the crucial aspect of the conceptualizing, the Soaring Eagle Academy was the participant freedom, the choose their own planning the team without interference from the university administration. They value their previous experiences, strength, and expertise, but above all, that all good relationship that maintain achieving the synergy or collaboration and planning into the program. This kind of life-changing program was aligned with the benefits described in the several scholars who investigated comprehensive transition program before highlighted the transformational role as education student with ID lives with an academic and social gains. So this kind of like a several recommendation and limitation for our studies that the future research may be to determine how well these programs achieved and outcomes and goal of transforming the lives of the students, their attitudes towards inclusion and campus and also the community. The future research also could be investigate the perspective of the students and other students who are dealing with these students with ID, like parents, faculties, and staff members. There are several limitations in our study that we have faced. That one of them, there was not yet evidence that findings in the study would be generalized to other universities for the geography and nationally. Also, the case illustrates the lessons learned from the process of conceptualizing the Soaring Eagle Academy, and that these lessons may be used, for example, for our settings and context for other researchers. As a conclusion, our studies investigate conceptualizing Inception process for the programs with ID in the Southwest Florida in the United States. The case indicated the significant aspect while planning programs, which is including ensuring that the by the university administrator and key stakeholders, and also intrinsic motivation, team members who are willing to create something great without personal and hidden agendas, transform the lives of the students with ID. Their families, the campus, the culture and attitudes towards inclusion of these students of the campus fabric and community in the Southwest Florida. So our case emphasized the value of inclusion, diversity in higher education by stressing the need to create a program support individual in diverse populations, mainly those with ID hoping to become a model representation, the opportunity for social justice, marginalized population in a multicultural society. Thank you so much.